And now,
introducing the one, the only.
Let me introduce to you
lively talk with successful people, barely filtered. This is the Jenna Ben Show.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Jenna Ben Show. I'm Jenna Benamy, your host, and with us today, I have Kit Dale. How do you want to introduce yourself, Kit?
I think Kit Dale is fine. Just a humble legend. That's it.
Kit Dale. Okay, so a little bit of a plot twist today, guys, because you know I have a lot of fighters on the show. But today, Kit is actually a two-time world pro jiu-jitsu grappling champion, actor, creator of The Art of Mastering Jiu-Jitsu, and which is an online course for learning jiu-jitsu, which we'll get into in just a bit. But it's a little bit of a twist because you've never fought before.
No. Just I've done grappling competitions, but I've never fought MMA.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I was always originally going to.
Yeah.
But I decided, I think I was always planning on getting winning black belt world champion in jiu-jitsu and then going into MMA.
Yeah.
And then as I was in my journey, I kind of decided that I've built up enough injuries going through jiu-jitsu and that I probably want to do something that I can maintain for the rest of my life, which turned me more into acting rather than into MMA.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Age, origin, what's special about you?
Well, I mean, I don't know if we can fit it all in 1 hour. But my name's Kit Dale. I'm 34 years old. I'm living in Los Angeles. I'm originally from Australia. I think I was 22 years old when I first started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Now, I was doing MMA training. I just didn't fight. And then I competed in jiu-jitsu, which I never really thought I was going to. I just went to watch a competition. And at the time, there was me and another white belt. And we were very even, and I just started getting the better of him. And then I went to watch a competition, and he was in it. And I thought, this guy's going to get killed. And he won the competition. So in my head, I was like, well, if he won it, then technically I won the competition. So I started competing, and I really enjoyed it. And I competed for the next 4 years. And I went from white to black belt really quickly. And then after getting my black belt, kind of got a little bit bored of it. And I started looking into doing other things. And I started getting more into especially acting and film and writing and stuff like that.
Yeah. So growing up, you did karate, inline hockey, Australian football, which is apparently very violent. And so what made you want to get into jiu-jitsu though?
Well, the Australian rules football was what I was playing. And I was doing very well with that, but I was very immature physically, and I was very timid. So the bigger, more physically intimidating players in the game started to hit me behind the play and really started physically intimidating me. And I didn't like the feeling of insecurity in a sense. So I was like, I want to learn how to protect myself.
Yeah.
So I found a school. It was under Robert Parmakovsky. It was actually JKD, so the Jeet Kune Do. Yes, the Bruce Lee sort of philosophy on martial arts, and I was doing it with him, and then he introduced me into jiu-jitsu. And I remember thinking it was my first time I've ever learning jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I play Aussie rules football, I'm fit, I'm strong. There's this little guy that looks like a little Johnny Pencil pusher, and I'm going to bash this guy. And he just destroyed me. Oh. So I was like...
So you were impressed by that. And you're like, well, I want to do that.
Yeah, because he wasn't strong, and he just played with me like a puppet.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I want to learn a little bit more of this, because I think it was very, I found it more enjoyable than any other martial art, because it was the one that you could compete daily at 100%. Compared to, you can't learn boxing or kickboxing. You can't go to training every session and compete with your training partners 100%, because people will get hurt. Where in jiu-jitsu, you can do that because it's quite controlled. Right,
because grappling versus fighting.
Yes, so I that's how I ended up getting into martial arts, and then I fell into the competition side of it, like I said before. And then I just sort of kept doing it, and I started doing better and better, and I kept challenging myself to go to higher levels, and I went through the grading system quite quick, which was great, but it was also probably a reason why I kind of got bored after a little bit. But I kind of do that with most things as well.
You hold a record for learning faster than how many?
Technically everyone.
So you are the fastest learner of jiu-jitsu, and break that down for us. What does that really mean?
Well, it just means that from the point of starting jiu-jitsu with no prior grappling experience, I went from white to world-class black belt faster than anyone else. There are people that have gone through the system very quickly, but
Yeah.
there's always loopholes. Like BJ Penn did it, but he was training 7 years no-gi before he decided to get graded. So then after 7 years, he goes from white to black in 3 years,
Right.
but it's really 10 years. And there's a lot of guys that do the same thing, like Travis Stevens went through the belt system very quickly, but he was already like an Olympic level judoka. DJ Jackson did the same thing, but he was already a Division I wrestler. So there's a lot of people that come from grappling
Pre-existing
backgrounds.
experience, yeah.
Yes, where it's very similar to where you have a big advantage, but I was the only one that went from having no prior grappling experience to that in 4 years.
Yeah. Okay. I actually want to talk to you about your philosophy on studying, because I think that's played a role in all aspects of your career so far and what has really enabled you to propel forward very quickly.
Yeah. So I have a little bit of I don't technically have ADD, but I feel like I do, where I get kind of bored very quickly.
You might.
Yeah, I probably do. And when I was in primary school, if someone, or high school, if I was in class and someone walked past the class, I'd be like, "Who's that? What's going on there?" I was
Yeah.
always easily distracted. So I struggled a lot through high school. Most of my end of year reports were like, Kit Dale had all the ability but lacked any kind of application of himself. So I failed pretty much mostly everything. Unless I needed to pass it, then I could put the effort in. But I felt it very boring. But I did excel in the things that I was interested in.
Which were what?
When I was younger, karate. I played inline hockey. I ended up being, within a year, I was the MVP. I tried out for the state squad as well the year I quit, but I was just very quickly. Then I went into Australian rules football, and I ended up winning the best and fairest. I was third in the league. I played interleague. I played the Vic East representative side. We won 3 premierships. I played in the best, one of the best country teams in the country. And then I went into martial arts and did quite well in that. So I knew there was a trend of like, okay, whatever I apply myself in, I seem to do very well at, but I was doing it differently to what like most people trained.
Right.
To give an example of this, if you look at martial arts, especially Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, most coaches are using the industrial age model, the industrial education system, basically to create factory workers in the 60s. So what they do is they teach you exactly how to do something, and then you're told to repeat that. And if you do that, you're correct and you're a good student. And the same thing happens in martial arts. You go your first class, they teach you exactly how to do a rear naked choke.
Yeah.
And then you've got to repeat it. And if you repeat it exactly the way they showed it, then you're doing it right. And then you've got to go into the, into the free rolling and then try and do it on someone else. And it's the worst way to learn something. But I can understand why people do that, because they think that rote learning, like repetition, is the master of all skill. But it is not. It is a good way, and I think it's great if you're working on an assembly line where everything is exactly the same. But when you're looking at martial arts, every single person you're sparring with is different, thinks different, looks different, feels different, and they're going to do different things. So you have to become a better problem solver rather than just a repetition guy. So I found it very boring when I first started jiu-jitsu to do that, so much so that I stopped turning up for the technique portion of class and I would just get into the rolling. And it was frowned upon by everyone else because they thought, okay, you're an idiot because you should be doing it the way everyone's doing it because we're
Right.
drilling it, we're going to get better at it. But I was excelling much faster than them. And what I figured out after this is I try to break down and learn the science behind learning and why I was able to excel so much faster than everyone else while training far less, while still working a full-time job. And then we figured out a few really interesting things. And we figured out that problem solving your way through learning is much more powerful than just being told exactly what to do. And to give an example of what I mean by problem solving, and the military use this, they call it the OODA loop, but I'm going to give you my sort of definition of it. Basically, whenever we're in front of a problem, and this could be in martial arts where, let's say I'm in someone's guard, in their legs, and I need to pass their guard to mount or something like that. The problem is those legs or the arms, everything. And the first thing I do is I examine the whole problem. Where am I? What have I got to do? What's in front of me? Then I come up with a solution. Then I execute that solution, and then I evaluate its success. Did it work? Did it not work? Why did it work? Okay, and then I go back to the start. I just took that new information that I just learned, I go back to the start. Now I examine the same or a new situation with information that I just learned. I come up with a new solution, I execute, and then I evaluate that. And I get that new information, then I come back. And basically it's like an information gathering cycle, that the more you do that, the more information you gather. So if I was to get you to learn something, I could tell you, okay, here's a rear naked choke, and I could get you to drill it 500 times, or I could get you to start in a rear naked choke with that position, and I'll tell you, to start from then, you just got to keep trying to get that rear naked choke, and you'll start learning things and realizing things that don't work and why you should do this, and then I can give you tips along the way.
So basically learn through trial and error.
Yeah, which is much more powerful. It's the way we learn everything. It's the way we're biologically designed to learn everything, yet when it comes to sport and education, we seem to overcomplicate things and really section things out and make sport look much more difficult than what it really is. So if you asked a traditional jiu-jitsu master what jiu-jitsu is, and they'll probably categorize it into 500 to 1,000 different techniques. Well, I don't really think of it in techniques. I think of it as just one movement. It's just one problem that is continuously changing and that I'm continuously trying to solve.
So did you incorporate this philosophy into the art of mastering jiu-jitsu?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did it take you to develop that guide?
Oh, I mean, I was trying to figure all this stuff out since I was 23 years old, and I'm 34 years old, so there's 11 years worth of information in there. That was the kind of stuff that I figured out, and then there was a lot of really cool stuff that I started learning when I was studying case studies on learning and stuff like that. To give you an example of this, the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is in charge of your fight or flight systems, it decides when a threat comes, it decides whether you decide to run or you fight it.
Yeah.
And it can be a horrible feeling, but can be life-saving because it makes your body release adrenaline, it speeds your heart rate up, it pumps more oxygen and blood to your muscles, it dilates your pupils to let more light in, it makes you feel sick in case you need to throw up and run really far or push it out the other way. It can feel very uncomfortable in a normal situation, and a lot of people have this with anxiety because they feel all those things during a safe situation. So it feels very horrible. But in a life or death situation, it can save you because it's basically getting you to use as much energy as you can to survive in that situation. Now, if you look at the memory, now you've got two parts where you hold the memory. It's the cerebellum and the hippocampus. And one is declarative memory and the other is more muscle memory. Now, the amygdala has a huge role in how deep we store information. So to give you an example of this, if something happens to you and it has very little emotional, it emotionally arouses you very little, you're probably not going to remember it. You might remember it for a couple minutes. For example, if I give you a passcode to open someone's phone or to open a door, you're going to remember for 7 seconds, and then your brain just lets it go because it doesn't need to remember that. But in a life or death situation, your brain records so much information in that because it wants to make sure that if you're in that situation again, it gets you ready to survive. So the cool thing about that is when you structure your training to be more emotionally arousing or to have higher stakes, you remember things much deeper. Instead of, 1, 2, 3 days, you're talking 15, 30 years.
Right. So would you say, is it really possible to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from a video?
Yes. But it's impossible to practice it because you need a partner.
Well, so that's what I was going to say. Is it actually geared more towards people who are already a part of a gym and have training, and this is kind of like teaching them to perfect it?
Yes, but I mean, yes and no, because my products are a lot more theoretical than what most products are. Most products are just techniques. You buy the product, you've got their 15 favorite techniques.
Yeah.
You're probably going to forget most of them, and there might be 1 or 2 that apply to you. What I try and teach is an understanding of why you're doing certain things so that you can take that why and change the how. So if you understand the underlying concepts of why you're doing something, then you can change how you're doing it. Not only that, I talk about a lot more about learning and how to structure your training to get the best possible memory retention and skill acquisition. So a lot of the feedback I get from my products are, can you change the way I not only learn jiu-jitsu, but learn how to learn in itself, which is so important because most times we're learning how to do something instead of trying to learn how to learn. And when we know how to learn, then we can take that and we can learn everything, and we can change the way we study, change the way we absorb information so that you learn faster, which is
everything?
Much more better. Everything.
Dating?
Maybe, yeah, of course, dating. Anything, doesn't matter what it is. Like you want to remember, you want to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's what most things are, is you make mistakes and you learn. If you keep making the same mistakes and you can't remember the lesson behind that, then you're going to fall into the same traps. So if it was dating, then obviously I've been through that. Like I know that if I'm dating someone and something goes wrong, I'm really trying to figure out, okay, what went wrong? Why did it go wrong? Mm-hmm. And then try and adjust for that to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And
do you ask them?
I mean, you can. The problem is most people don't know why. I mean,
And they also don't want to deal with the confrontation of being honest.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you have really bad breath, or
it's me, it's not you. It happens a lot. So I don't think there's much value in asking them, because most people are not consciously aware and they're not really sure why they're doing things. And this is true all over the board. People rarely understand why they're doing things. They know that they shouldn't or should, but they don't understand why. And I think if you can break down the why, it really teaches you to understand yourself. I think Socrates said that, where he said the key to human excellence is questioning oneself and others. So if you keep asking the question why, you'll get down to a core truth eventually. But it's very hard to expect someone to be that conscious or that honest. Mm-hmm. So I think it's much better to just break it down yourself. And I think the answer, especially in dating, is much more clear than what people make it out. People overcomplicate it and they go too small into the details. Mm-hmm. Same thing in learning martial arts. They focus so much on grabbing this grip right here and make sure you have it here every time, where it doesn't matter. If you know why you're kind of doing that, then I can change those grips. I can change what I'm doing.
Right.
And the same thing, most of the time, like as she left you, is because you made yourself unattractive to her.
In some capacity.
In some way, yeah. Something that you're doing, and it's probably a lot of things you're doing that make yourself unattractive. So you've got to be honest with yourself and just say, okay, this is my fault. Some situations, especially with dating, it's out of your control. Let's say me and you are both single, I meet you, and things are going great, but you're still hung up on a guy. Mm-hmm. And he comes back into the picture. It's very hard for me to compete with that, because you've already got connections to that guy. He was already there before me.
Right.
What I'm going to need is time to develop a connection with you and to develop
attachment carries a lot of weight.
Yeah. So, some things are out of your hands, but most of the time you can figure it out yourself and be honest and just go, okay, I was unattractive. I was doing things. I was like a beta male. I got to change that. And I did that. I went, man, I was the worst. I was probably the worst. I only kissed one girl up until the age of 18, and it was by force, not by me forcing her on me. No, not that way. I got pushed. Our heads got pushed together because I was never going to do it. I was too scared. I was like petrified.
Wow. Were you into her though?
Yeah. I really liked her. I liked her for like years. There was girls that I liked for years, and I just too scared to even talk to them.
Wow. Yeah. So you developed interest in girls that you never even had conversation with. That's fascinating to me, because how do you know whether you really like them?
Oh, I'm a guy. We're mostly physical. It's a lot easier to know. We don't have to see that. We kind of realize afterwards, oh, okay, she's not that cool. But back then I didn't have much choice for starters. But I remember, I think the first time I ever got dumped, it was actually a weird situation. I was dating a girl for a while, and then I found out that she had a boyfriend. So I was like the guy on the side.
Oh,
yeah.
You were the side piece.
I was a side piece, and I spent 2 years trying to get her back. So I spent 2 years studying, trying to figure out what I did wrong, why this cycle happened. So it took me 2 years to build myself up, and then I finally got her back. And
you got her back.
I got her back,
and then you didn't want her.
And then I didn't want her. I realized that it was just a goal.
God.
But I needed that to really become self-aware and to improve myself. So it was great, but it was just I'm
looking at our videographer like, can you believe this, Rob?
No, I did, yeah. So I started really badly with that kind of stuff. So I had to do a lot of work on myself.
Reprogramming.
I had to stop drinking. It had to, build myself up from the ground. And for me, I needed that more than anyone, because I really started in a really bad place in that sense, like petrified of girls, not confident at all. I needed to, and I got anxiety as a teen, like really badly. So there was like that I had to deal with as well. So I had a lot of things going bald, by 20 years old, 19, 20, it was really hard. You have so much attachment to your identity and how you look that there was a lot of things that I had to break attachment with to progress.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a lot, but you have a great shaped head. So you're rocking it. And I got to say, guys, go to his Instagram profile. What is it? Kit Dale Official?
Kit Dale Official.
Yeah. So you have this persona online, and I find you to be a little bit different in person. Like you're just not that you're not kind online, but there's something like you have like a, for lack of a better term, like a frat boy attitude online. Like you and your boys talk a lot of smack to each other. You make a lot of jokes at each other's expenses.
Yeah.
And so how would you say, like, how did you develop this persona? Because it's not 100% who you are.
I mean, it is and it isn't.
Yeah, you're definitely a jokester. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been on the other end of his jokes, guys. Like,
Yeah, and it'll continue to happen.
Oh, fair enough.
I think the family I grew up with, so I had two little brothers. I had a lot of close family members that are all a couple years older than me, and they were very funny. And in Australia, we call it taking the piss out of each other, where we kind of bag each other and really try and break each other down. And
Sounds wonderful.
Oh, it was horrible when I was a kid. I remember I went to high school. It was my first day of high school, and my two cousins, Michael Shaw and Johnny Pignataro, were about 2 or 3 years older than me, and they were really popular kids. And they found my wallet, and they realized because I didn't know what to do, put the picture, like what kind of picture to put in my wallet. So I put a picture of myself in there, and they got it, and they're like, "Oh, look, Kit's got a photo of him," and everyone's laughing. I went red, and I was like so embarrassed, but. No matter where we were with my cousins or my family, we're always trying to rip into each other, no matter whatever we can see. And we don't hold back on much.
That's hard for self-esteem though. Did any of that penetrate to your core?
Yeah, but it was good for my self-esteem because I started realizing that it doesn't really matter what people think about me. You know, it's just a wall that we sort of create, like some kind of thing, and we really... You know, it governs so much of how we feel about each other because of what people say and think. And when you have cousins and people that love you saying that kind of stuff, real bad stuff, like I would turn up to a family function and they would see me going bald and they go, Thinners is here. And then everyone would like look at your hair and you'd feel so embarrassed.
Yeah.
But you develop thick skin. And
Yeah.
I think this was a really good lesson. And this is kind of why I am the way I am. So, you know, no matter what, if I see my cousins and I can see anything, I'm going to rip into them. My brother made me best man at his wedding and I had to do a speech. I just did a complete roast on everyone there.
No, you
I
did
swear to God,
not.
I got it. Just 10 minutes. I've got it online. And it's literally just me roasting them because I thought, well, this is my opportunity to do something. So I was
Payback,
like,
baby.
yeah, no matter what I did, there was nothing nice I said in that. Yeah, it was funny, but it was like, and it was all in good taste.
Were
but-
you reading the room to see people's reactions and their facial expressions? Like,
Yeah,
were they
yeah.
pleased? Were they laughing, or were they just like,
Oh,
God,
they're
this
laughing a lot. It was good. It actually went really well. There was one guy at the start that got real mad because he was like, and one of the jokes was on his expense.
Yeah.
He got mad at the start, but then about 2 minutes later, he started laughing at another joke, so I won him back, which is good.
Yeah.
But no, it went really well. And I think because we're from Australia, we take that kind of stuff, you know, as a grain of salt or with a grain of salt, whatever that word is. But that's why I got into, you know, just doing that kind of stuff online because I think it's funny. I like banter.
Right.
And I don't like the current climate that people take, you know, what you say so seriously.
Oh my goodness. It is a very sensitive time, people.
Yeah, and it's a catch-22 because it's a really bad cycle. There's a good saying, the stronger the person, the weaker the walls. The stronger the walls, the weaker the person. So if you try and protect somebody like we are right now, like don't say this, don't say that because it hurts people's feelings, in turn you're making them weaker,
Right.
which makes them more vulnerable to lesser things. So then suddenly what they once found offensive is now horrible. And what they didn't
Right.
find offensive is now offensive. It just keeps getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
And the good thing about having a family like I did was, and there's a balance to this as well. Obviously, like, and this is for any type of growth, whether it's strength growth, whether it's intelligence, whether it's self-esteem, there is a certain kind of pressure that you need to go through. Not too little that you're unchanged and not too much that you're broken. For example, use weights. What are you doing when you're trying to grow muscle? You're trying to break the muscle fibers down enough so that it rebuilds stronger than what it is, not too much that it breaks and tears completely, not too little that you're unchallenged. If you want to become smarter, you need to challenge your psychology by doing the same thing. You need to test yourself, problem solve.
Yeah.
Not too great that you get, you know, fatigued and you can't finish the problem, not too little that you're unchallenged. The same thing, if someone bags you and someone says something, and I could say a million things that could hurt anyone, you want to have it not too bad that the person ends up committing suicide or becoming depressed or anything like that, but not too little that they're unmoved. It has to have a little bit of that.
So you believe that we should go through life constantly dealing with some sort of a challenge because it's only going to make us stronger. But you believe there should never be downtime. There should always be some sort of growth happening.
I mean, obviously it's very subjective to the individual and what kind of life they want to live. For me, that's what makes me the happiest is when I'm solving problems and when I'm growing. So my life's quite different to most people because I have a life where I don't need to work. I haven't had to work a normal job since 2010, so I have a lot of time on my hands.
Yeah.
But I also realize how little time I have on my hands as well. But everything I'm doing is I'm trying to challenge myself in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And I do many things. I do playing piano. I play guitar. I try and learn how to sing. I play online games.
Let's hear you sing.
Oh my God, no way.
Put him on the spot.
Yeah, but I'm not very good. But I'm a lot better than when I first started. When I first started singing, my parents would bang the shower walls and like, stop singing.
Stop.
You're killing us. Yeah, for real.
No way.
Yeah, they didn't let me sing. And for good reason, because I was really bad. But I
no wonder you're such a tough cookie. You've dealt with a lot. I'm trying to think of my upbringing and like, I didn't grow up in a household full of people trying to knock me down, you know?
I think the problem is, and the misconception is they mean well. Like my parents and that, we had very different views on things. And for a long time, me and my father would have arguments about me doing martial arts because I wasn't making much money.
Right.
And he would get worried and frustrated. So we'd have arguments and he'd be like, get a real job. You're going to be a loser your whole life, all this kind of stuff. And what he's really saying is like, I'm worried about you. I want you to be something stable. And it's a very different world to what he grew up in. Now you can make thousands of dollars a second doing something online.
Well, now you're making 6 figures on the art of mastering jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Check it out online.
Trying to figure out how much is 6 figures again.
In the hundreds of thousands.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's doing very, very well. And I'm very glad for that. And but challenging that and just saying, no, I'm going to stick to that, helped me a lot when it comes to learning things. And even to these days, I say certain things. Like I'm writing a script right now. It's my first script.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm going to sell it and I'm going to make it and I'm going to star in it and it's going to be a big hit movie. Is that going to happen? Probably not. But in my head, that's the way I think. I'm delirious.
Yeah.
I think,
I don't know. I think it's actually, listen, you've been through enough adversity in your life to where you've proven to yourself that when you set your mind to something, you're able to accomplish your goal and actually exceed expectations. You've done it a number of times with jiu-jitsu. You've done it with your business. So I think it's only fair to have that mentality. And I think that that's only going to help you along the way, because if you have that confidence in yourself, then when you're talking to investors and other actors and, producers and whoever you want to join your team, they're going to feel that.
Yeah.
And they're going to want to be a part of your project.
No, I think you're spot on. I think that's a problem with most people. A lot of people are at the stage of their life, especially now. The first thing is, one, they don't even know what they want to do. They've kind of jumped into a job since they were younger, and that's how they make money and that's how they sustain the life they're in, but they're not very happy. So they want to do something that's a bit more fulfilling. Yeah. One, half the people don't know what they would want to do. Or two, half the people don't believe in themselves enough to know that they can achieve that if they put the work in and they approach it intelligently. So I think, and you're spot on, in my head, it's like, I feel like I can do whatever I want to a certain extent if I'm willing to put the effort in. But there's not that many things that I'm willing to put the effort in to excel at.
Right.
And there's certain things would help my life financially, but I'm not willing to put that work in, and I know
you need to have the interest.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. Like I remember as a kid, I sucked at reading comprehension because I was so bored with what I was reading. And so, but then there were other tests that I just like off the charts, and then they put me into these gifted classes, and then I got bored with that, and it was reflected in my test results.
Really?
Yeah. So it's funny because I went all the way to the PhD level with education, but man, I am bored with textbook stuff.
Yeah.
Life experience is everything for me. I learned so much more with my interactions with people than reading anything. But I do think that supplementing your education with case studies like you're doing is super smart.
Yeah, and what you said, the biggest reason why you probably enjoy learning like the way you do, like through just doing things, is because a huge part of understanding or learning information, new information, is having being able to relate to that information.
Yes.
And a lot of time we start something new where we have no understanding of what we're doing. So every part of lingo, like every part of the speech, makes no sense to you. So it's going to go through one ear and out the other. And this is the problem with learning something straight away. And same thing if I started teaching you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu right now and you've never done it before, and if I just start talking technically about it,
Right.
it's going to go through one ear and out the other.
Of course.
What I do is I would create a training session that's going to reveal certain problems for you. I know that you're going to have problems doing these things. I'll tell you, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to get from A to B. And I know there's a problem in there that's going to occur. But I don't tell you how to deal with that until that problem comes.
Right.
Then when you have that problem, you come to me like, oh, this is what's happening. I go, okay, this is why. And then it sticks to you like, oh, that makes so much sense. So learning the way we're talking about right now is so much more valuable because you're actually creating a relationship with what you're learning.
Yeah.
And then when someone teaches you something or you learn from that, it makes sense. So
'Cause it's
you're
relatable to
minimizing-
you.
Yes.
Yes.
And the biggest problem with most coaches is they can't, how do I say it? It's very hard for them to give their students any kind of context to what they're teaching.
Yeah.
And to be good at that, you need to have very good analogies and stuff like that people can relate to.
Sure. Okay, I want to do a Titan CBD toast.
Okay.
Titan CBD, designed by a scientist. So I love this guy. His name's Dave, the CEO. He owns a DEA-approved lab in Wisconsin. And he's like, look, I've been dealing with this stuff for over 20 years. Let me just come up with my own product. And he originally designed it for kids, so it's like super fun. So basically, these are pop crystals that you put under your tongue. Sublingual mechanism helps it enter the body very quickly. So put these crystals under your tongue. Cheers.
Is that the only information you're going to give me before I put something in my mouth? This isn't going to make me high or anything.
It's not going to make you high. There's no THC in it. It's just CBD. And what it does, I know that you work out a lot and you train a lot, and I saw that you went hiking. So you're feeling some soreness. So I'm going to check back in with you at the end of the show and see if this has alleviated any of the soreness from your workouts.
It's going to fix my butt pain. I put it under the tongue?
Under the tongue.
All right.
And let it just kind of hang out there so that it's absorbed through the tissue under the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to start to feel some popping.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is fun.
it's good. And so, another thing you and I had talked about was anxiety.
Yeah.
And
that's what I'm getting right
Titan
now with all this
CBD
popping.
well, it's actually supposed to alleviate the anxiety. I've taken it when I felt super stressed, and it's definitely taken the edge off for me. So you and I have talked about anxiety and how that's something that you struggled with before. And after you're done pop rockin', I want to know, I want you to kind of share with the listeners because I think it's a really valuable lesson.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I was 16 years old, and one night I was out drinking with my friend, and I went back to his house. Mm-hmm. I could still hear the popping. It's fun. And in the middle of the night, I woke up in a huge panic. And the first thing I can remember is doing a cartwheel, because I think when you have a giant panic attack, you don't know what's going on, and you just have all this energy, and you're just trying to get it out.
Huh.
I did a cartwheel. I remember saying I feel like I've had 30 beers because I felt like really drunk and sick, nauseous. And I tried to climb the rafter of his house, and I was going crazy. And I was like, "Where's your dad?" I just felt like really scared and then it kind of went away. And I was sitting there. I had a cricket bat in my hand at this time. I'm just like, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah.
And I had no idea. A couple of weeks later, the same thing happened. And then it got more and more often to the point where it happened 3 nights in a row. And it's a horrible feeling. You wake up just completely in a panic. You feel sick, nauseous, can't breathe. You feel like you're
going
dying.
to die. Yeah.
And it got to that point where I was like, okay, I need to go see someone, or I'm not going to want to live anymore, because the only peace that I had was while I was asleep, because it would seep into my daily habits now. I ended up seeing a Chinese herbalist who gave me some herbs that actually helped. They pretty much eradicated those type of panic attacks.
So in this country, we call them herbs.
Herbs. Why is that?
We don't pronounce the H.
Oh, you don't?
Wait, so when you see herbal essences, do you call it herbal essences?
Herbal essences. Okay. Herbal essences. No, herbal essences. Yeah. That's funny. I didn't know. I know you guys have a lot of weird things that you do. Like you don't pronounce a lot of the T's. Like if we said internet, you guys be internet. Which is like
internet.
Internet.
I don't know.
You have the R's. We don't have the R's. Like after certain sounds.
Uh-huh.
If I was going to say, if I said door, it's more like the New York door.
Door.
Yeah, but if you said it, it'd be door. Door.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's weird for me to do a retroflexed R.
All right, get back to it.
Let's get back to where I was.
Yeah, anxiety.
Anxiety. So that helped a lot with that. But then later on, it come in a different form, and I ended up having like a breathing issues where I was like paranoid about my breathing. I'm too tight chested. I'm breathing too much. I'm hyperventilating, and it was like horrible, and I had to deal with that. And it was very hard. It became debilitating in life because I didn't want to leave my, house to go do anything in case I get anxiety. Yeah. And I really had to push through a lot of really horrible times to just try and exist. And there's nothing worse when you're sitting there in a very safe environment. It could be like right now where I'm trying to act completely normal, but I'm having a panic attack on the inside.
Right.
I've had that for auditions. I had to audition for a role where I'm playing this tough security guard. It's really calm.
Yeah.
And I'm like having a full-blown panic attack on the inside. So it just would come out horrible.
Yeah. So what's a solution?
Well, I think it's very different for everyone. I think the main point is to never stop what you're doing, because most of the anxiety comes from you just imagining that you're going to have anxiety, and it's like the fear of having it that's the most debilitating part. And if you give into that, then you're going to live your life as a prisoner.
Right.
I think it's important for you to keep pushing and doing what you want to do regardless. And you kind of realize a lot of the time, well, there was nothing to really be scared about. Nothing ever happened. I think meditation can help a lot. I think there's a lot of different things that can happen. You can go see people, talk about it. But I think the really important thing is understanding, okay, and this is the scariest part, especially for men, because we're so trying to be tough and masculine. And when you have something like this, it can feel like your masculinity is being challenged and you feel like weak. And I think it's important for men to know this is very common and there's nothing wrong with it. And letting people know, like right now, I let anyone know, like I get anxiety. If you see me act a little weird and stuff like that, don't stress. And when I know people know that I have that, I feel so much more comfortable. Even if I'm getting anxious, I can kind of get up and just be like, yeah. I had to do a seminar for 94 people in Sweden the other day. And I just thought about it and I was like, man, what if I had anxiety here? And then suddenly I was starting to feel anxious. I'm like, oh my God, don't think about that. And I'm thinking, because I don't want, that's the thing that scares me the most is I don't like being out of control. And even doing a podcast makes me nervous because I'm like, what if I get anxious and I want to leave? I can't because I've got things happening. But I know that you would understand, so I don't really care so much anyway.
No, I wouldn't. I would be like, no, we're finishing the show.
Yeah, you stay there and
You're
panic.
stuck.
Yeah.
But what I would do is talk through it with you.
Yeah.
And that helps, right?
Yes. Oh, definitely. And having someone to talk to. But allowing people to know that you have that is so much feels so much better.
Off.
And just understanding that's not a weak thing. It's got nothing to do with you. It's just it's a survival mechanism that we don't really need a lot in this day and age because we're not, living in a tribal era.
Right.
Era that we
the fight or flight that we're feeling is like so irrational.
Yes.
Like sometimes we panic over an argument with a friend or a coworker, or maybe we feel a shift in a potential deal coming to fruition or not, and it's something that we want so bad.
Yeah.
And so then we start to catastrophize the potential outcomes, and we're playing everything out in our minds, like, is this going to happen or this going to happen? And then it's taking away from our focus from other things and relaxation and sleep.
Yeah.
And so, meditation is a good way if you can figure out how to meditate.
Yeah.
I think physical activity helps, like going on walks and working out regularly tends to reduce anxiety overall.
For sure.
And, talking through it.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of like hearing yourself say things aloud, I think takes some of the power out of the anxiety.
Yeah. Another thing is also, some people have this, is like trying to relieve yourself from having any expectations on things. Because a lot of times you're stressed and anxious about certain things because you have an expectation of it, or you identify as a certain thing. And this is probably the one thing I've tried to shed the most in my last few years of living, is being trying to not have expectations on anything and trying not to identify as anything. And this is why the question when people say, like, tell me about you, kid, who are you? And it's like, I'm just me.
Right.
Is the most common, it should be the most rational answer, but obviously people want to put you in a box and understand who you are, so you've got to kind of categorize yourself a little bit. But I try not to identify as anything anymore. I don't feel like I'm a grappler. I don't feel like I'm a teacher. I don't feel like I'm an artist or anything. I'm just me doing different things a lot of the time.
Isn't it okay to say, well, right now my focus is this. Right now I'm passionate about this. And then that way you're not like fully committing to an identity, but you're like, this is what I'm doing at the
I think
moment.
that's fine. But a lot of people identify as it. Like, I mean, when I first started jiu-jitsu, I wanted to tell people I was a fighter. I know most MMA guys are going to sit there and go, jiu-jitsu's not fighting. It's all a form of fighting. MMA's not fighting then because it's different to the street as well. But doesn't really care. I don't really care
I'm going
about
to do a
that.
poll. I'm going to do a poll on Instagram. Check out my page, The Jenna Ben Show, and I'm going to see what, my following believes to be, fight worthy. Would you say that jiu-jitsu is fighting or not?
Yeah, it's a battle of semantics. What do you call fighting? Fighting is like challenging. It's trying to push through something. So I think jiu-jitsu it's a challenge. So you're fighting your way to win something.
Yeah.
Is it more, of a fight, street fight than MMA? MMA is much more violent and it's much more real.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning that at all, and it's amazing. But it's just a battle of semantics anyway. But I can't even remember why I was talking about that.
Well, what I want to know is, so Higa Machado was on my show recently.
My braja.
He is I just realized that's who you were referring to when I was like, have you checked out the shows? And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to watch it with my brother.
Yeah, him.
I love him.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
He calls me his sister, of course.
Uh-huh.
So he's the nephew of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu founder Carlos Gracie and the owner of the Academy in Beverly Hills. And so we got a feel for Higan on the show. Now, how would you say your techniques differ from his?
I mean, I wouldn't know. He's well out of his prime. Two, the time he was competing is extremely different to the time now. It's a new era. If Higan was my age right now, I'm sure he would be one of the best as well. But if you took their abilities back then compared to now is going to win. If I took now to the next 20 years, the next 20 years is going to destroy now. So, and that's often. I've hung out with Higan a lot. I really love him. Awesome guy. Have we done much jiu-jitsu together? Not at all. Okay. But I hear great things from him. I know he was one of the best competitors of his generation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I know that train with him speak extremely high of him. So no doubt he's amazing. I don't know how he teaches compared to me. So I don't think I could ever comment on that.
Right.
But I'm sure he knows what he's doing. And I think he's great for what he's doing, which is working a lot more with high-profile athletes and stuff like that.
He's teaching a lot of like the Hollywood stars how to really fight in the movies so that we're not seeing these awkward scenes where it's like, wait, that didn't actually happen. How did you fall over?
Yeah, it's a very different clientele to most of the people I would work with that want to be, either they just want to learn jiu-jitsu or they want to be professional fighters.
Right.
So I hated the other style. When I first started, I was like, no, you should train everyone like they want to be fighters. I don't like these celebrities getting belts when they don't deserve them. They're not.
Right.
But that's such a stupid way of thinking. And I grew out of that very quickly because I realized people are learning for different things. And if you're a celebrity actor, you can't risk getting hurt. Production will lose so much money. You can't risk getting hit in the eye. So you can't be training like a professional.
But do you deserve a belt then?
I think, yeah. I mean, who, it's hard to really say what I'm trying to say, but no one should be able to dictate what anyone else should be and what kind of belt.
That's not true because a belt implies that you've reached a certain level of accomplishment. And so if Bobby is getting a purple belt, but then Keanu Reeves is also getting a purple belt, I'm going to expect that Keanu is as advanced and knowledgeable and capable as Bobby. Yeah,
but you can't measure them because they're very different people and they're doing it for different reasons. For example, Keanu is in his 50s or 60s. Physically, he's not going to be capable of doing what the other purple belt can do that's 21 in his prime physically. So you can't compare them both on their ability to compete or to train, but you might have to measure it on their knowledge of it or their ability to teach. Okay. I don't agree with that some people are like, oh, you're not a black belt if you don't have the right attitude. I mean, who do you think you are? It's like, shut
what does that mean?
Yeah. Some people, they're so self-righteous and I hate that kind of thing. You're learning an art and the belt should be an indicator of what level you are, either knowledge or skill-wise. I know people that have very little knowledge in martial arts, but they're absolute animals and they're beasts and their minds are strong and they can win a lot of fights. So they can go up the belts really quickly. Are they going to be the best teachers? Probably not because they don't have much information. But the problem with the belting system and why it's probably flawed is because it's incomparable, if you look at the individuals. Comparing,
it sounds like it's based on either knowledge or skill.
Yeah, so
that's not right. It should be one.
Yeah. So
and then
I
it would
think
be more consistent.
If I had it my way, it would be more like football and I'd be like there'd be Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's it. You're either competing in those divisions or not. And it doesn't matter what you know. If you can't do it, who cares?
Yeah.
But that's the way I would like it, because it's based on your ability rather than knowledge and stuff like that. Not that having knowledge is not helpful. It's, some of the greatest teachers weren't very good at fighting and stuff like that, but they understand it. They have that fighter IQ and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of really good, especially in jiu-jitsu right now, everyone's trying to sell a product because they see other people like myself selling a product and doing really well. So they're like, well, I've won more than Kit Dale, so I'm going to sell my product. And they don't really realize it doesn't sell because they're not good coaches, because it's not just about being good at something. It's about being able to convey that information to someone else that allows them to be good. And then to do it in a fun way that's engaging.
Right.
Like a lot of people are boring. They're like, okay, now here we're going to do this technique.
Whose accent
here.
are you?
I have no idea who that was.
I'm like,
I don't know what that was.
So I saw that you trained with Arnold Chan recently, who was also a guest. He was actually, so Gabriel Rosado was the first combat sports guy I had on the show. And then I had Arnold Chan on, striking coach.
Yeah.
And, he's worked with Tyron Woodley and a few other fighters. And Arnold introduced me to Antonio McKee, who came on the show with AJ. And then, there's a whole plethora of fighters that Antonio sent me. And then it just kind of took off with UFC and Bellator.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but Arnold and I, we've known each other for a few years. And I saw, and you told me that you had recently trained with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was that for?
We were working on a Demi Lovato music video. So Arnold is amazing with his martial arts and his choreography and all that kind of stuff. And I help him with the jiu-jitsu portion of it. So,
nice. Okay.
So we kind of worked together with that. So I caught up with him. I gave him my input on some throws and some jiu-jitsu to add to his fight scenes. We work really well together because his stand-up stuff is incredible and my jiu-jitsu stuff is going to complement that. So it works very well together. So, and we did some training, he helped me work on my striking as well, which is great.
Yeah.
But no, he's a good friend. We've all, anytime he's I know he's living in Atlanta now, but when he's back and stuff, we try and catch up. And
I didn't know he moved.
Yeah, he's moving into Atlanta now because they're filming a lot more stuff in Atlanta.
For his, he has the Interface series.
Yeah.
He has a TV show.
Yeah.
Do you know if that got picked up yet?
Not yet. I know they're in post-production. They're still doing stuff for it.
Awesome.
But he's working on 4 other shows right now. So that's what it says. So he's
such
flat
a
out.
rock star.
Yeah, he's a killer. He's
I should
a boss.
reach out. What's up, Arnold? Shout out.
Yeah, what's up?
Okay, so, on the Jenna Ben show, I like to talk about my guest professional careers, and we kind of bounced around a little bit, but I want to know quickly, what's your biggest accomplishment?
Probably being the lead in Iron Sky was one of my biggest accomplishments. And it is an accomplishment, and it isn't an accomplishment because a lot of acting is luck, being in the right place, the right person seeing you, but you have to do the work to do your best on that job. Now, I was very lucky to get selected for that. That was a $32 million production.
Wow.
And it was my first feature, my first big role as a feature, and I'm one of the leads on it. So that was amazing. But what I'm really proud of myself with is I had to do an American accent. I had to get into shape. I got photos of when I started compared to what I had to be in, and they wanted me to get as muscular and as ripped as I could. So I had to put on 12 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
In 2 months, learn a new accent, learn the line, read the script, get as good, put myself in as good a position as I could for this film. And back then, acting was still very fresh for me. If I did it now, I'd be in a much better position. But there was a lot of things that I had to learn and do in that 2 months. And I was going to the gym all day. I had my ear pods in, whatever they call them.
Yeah.
Before my ears were so cauliflowered, and I would listen to American accent tapes while I'm working out. So I'd be doing things while I'm working out. I would work out twice a day, eat really healthy, read the script. Everything I was doing was to try and put myself in as good position to do well in that. And we shot that in Belgium over 2 months. It was with Tom Green, Udo Kier's in there, a lot of really good actors. It was a lot of fun. It was a great production. It was directed by Timo, and he's a really big up-and-coming director. So it was great. It was a lot of fun. So that's probably my biggest accomplishment.
Okay. All right. Is this where you thought you'd be at 34 years old?
No. I think, depending on when I was younger, I would just be happy if I could make any kind of money. I remember being a part of a group when I was in grade 2 or something. So I was 7 years old, and we called it the Computer Club. And it was because one of our friends had a computer, and was the only one that had a computer back then. And he printed out a paper with all our names, and it said Computer Club. And now for some reason that day I was getting bullied and I got kicked out of that club. So I took the paper with me and the teacher grabbed us and said, "What's going on? What are you guys fighting about?" And then I showed him that and he read it and he said, "You know, you can make money with this one day." And it just stayed with me like an illness. And I was thinking I could make money through doing nothing. So I think from that moment on, I was always trying to think, how can I make money without doing anything? But I think when I was most of the time I was like, can I just get a job that I can do and just make enough money to exist? I'd be happy with.
Right.
But I kept sort of setting the goal higher and higher and higher. And then once I met a mentor when I was 24 years old that really changed the way I looked at the world and the way I thought about myself. And then from then on, I realized I could do whatever I wanted to a certain extent, you know, if I was willing to put in the work. So, you know, once I did that, then my goals become a lot bigger. You know, it was.
Well, here you are making thousands and thousands and basically having your days free to do whatever you feel like doing in the moment. That's pretty cool.
I'm extremely grateful for that.
Living the life. Okay. What's next for you?
I'm writing a script at the moment. I'm working on my online gaming. So I'm playing online games
Working
a lot.
on my online gaming.
Yeah.
I've never heard such bullshit in my life.
I'm just going to continue doing the same thing, just basically working on myself and just keep doing the things that I enjoy doing and creating a life that allows me to do that. You know, I've moved to LA now. I got my work visa 3 months ago. I just become SAG eligible, which means I can work for the union here, which is great.
Yeah.
I had to get Taft-Hartley twice for that. So I just want to really go through the film side of things a lot more. My brother's got he's directing his first film right now.
Real quick, you just got a props from our videographer, Rob, when you mentioned SAG.
Oh, really?
He's like, hats off.
Yeah. My brother's directing his first feature film right now in Bulgaria, and Megan Fox is the lead. So
amazing,
it's
super
great.
hot.
And and he's really talented. And I wouldn't say that about anybody. I would tell you, you know, if my brother was crap, I'd say he's really crap.
Yeah,
he's crap at certain things. But when it comes to film directing and writing, he's really, really good. And
is he your
really
younger
hard.
brother?
Younger.
Okay.
He's 31 now, I think.
Amazing.
So he's super happy. He's over in Bulgaria working on it at the moment. But I think it's very good, him doing that, me doing what I'm doing on my side, and we're going to work together and start building our own things. And I think in 10 years, you're going to see the Dale Bros films happening, which would be really fun. And I would love that. Give him a shout out. Scott Dale. If you go to SK Dale, I think it is, or SK Films. Anyway, just follow me anyway, and then I'll tell you where he is.
Yeah.
but yeah, he's killing it, and he's big things are going to come from him, which is great.
Okay, I love that. Now, part of what we talk about on the show is, you know, there's with any career, there's always going to be a rise and a fall, and you know, so it's a roller coaster essentially. So, what would you say is your biggest quote failure? And I say that in quotes because oftentimes we fail, and then that kind of reroutes us. But then that path is kind of what took us to success. So, you know, what would you say failure is to you?
I mean, to be real with you, my biggest failure is probably not chasing what I wanted to chase when I first wanted to chase it. I always knew I wanted to do acting, but I never thought about doing it and never believed in myself to do it as a career until I was 28 years old. So I know that if I got into it earlier, I would be in a much better position right now. So my biggest failure in life is not going for things when I first wanted to go for them. Because it takes so long, and then you finally go, okay, I'm going to do it. And then you're just like, why didn't I do this ages ago? So that's honestly my biggest failure. My biggest perceived kind of failures, I mean, is just doing things for the wrong reason. There was a lot of times I was like competing to win competitions, and I thought this is going to change who I am. I'm going to feel fulfilled after I win this. And then like I remember in Abu Dhabi when I won the world championship, I was like so happy for like a day or two, and then I was just like, it just drops away, and I'm like, I need to do something else. I need to get that same feeling again. You kind of chase those dopamine hits and the approval and respect of other people, and then you try and get the same thing back. And I would go from one competition to the next, and then realize it's never really going to leave you fulfilled. And that was a big reason why I stopped competing professionally, because I thought, well, I'm doing all this damage to my own body. There's injuries that I've done that are going to stay with me for the rest of my life and pretty much get worse. Right. So I wish I didn't chase that for the competition as much as I did, and I have a better attitude now. If I'm in a submission, I just tap. I don't care who it is. Yeah. If it's before it's even on, I tap, because I want to be able to continue to do this. But back in the day, you would have an arm bar, and I'm not going to tap. I'm not going to tap. Snap. okay, now I can't train for 4 weeks.
Wow.
And those injuries always come back. So I kind of wish that I didn't chase things for the outcome.
Right.
And more just did it for the journey.
Don't fight to the death. Like, just be strategic and say, well, what are the odds of this play? You know, and like, is it feasible for me to get out of this? If not, just
It happens. People say martial arts kills your ego, but then as you get really good, you start building that ego back because you start having expectations on how you should be. Like, I go to a gym, I'm like, well, I shouldn't technically get submitted by anyone.
Yeah.
But then you're rolling with someone and they put you in a bad position. You're like, well, I can't tap because this is embarrassing and people are going to see, and then you hurt yourself.
Right.
Where now I wouldn't really care if it was a white belt. Like, hey, nice, cool, let's go again. You know, just let that go. So I wish I did that earlier.
Walk us through some of your accolades.
Okay, so I mean, most of them are very superficial ones. Obviously, with the football, I did very good with the football. Winning premierships was great. Most people spend their whole life playing Australian rules football and never get a chance to win a premiership. I think I won 4. Winning the best and fairest was really good. The 2 times I won the world championships, the 1 time I won the Brazilian national championships was very good feeling.
And that was for grappling.
Yep, for Brazilian jiu-jitsu. The getting a lead on the film was probably, actually, to be honest, the best feeling I've ever had was going to the Finland premiere of the movie I'm in, Iron Sky: The Coming Race. That's now on Netflix. I remember going there and it was really weird. You kind of felt like a rock star because 3,000 people just watched your movie and you're the lead, and they're just like all looking at you, and they're all very happy and feel good.
Yeah, and you were probably like in super good shape, so all the ladies are like throwing their panties at you.
Yeah, I was like catching them and stuff. It was interesting, but it's funny because it's like that time where there's guys with their girlfriend and their girlfriend's looking at you like they want to bang you, and the guy's like, I don't care. That's cool.
Oh my God.
Bang him because he's just on TV.
I heard this from Frank Shamrock.
Oh, really?
Who, like, oh my God, he's like the craziest stories. Women would come up to me. Men would come and like serve me their women, their sisters, their mothers, like anything. And I'm like, oh my God, what a life.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah.
I don't, like, if I saw, I'm trying to think of someone who I would idol. If I saw Daniel Day-Lewis, doesn't matter who I'm with, I'm like, take her, she's yours. All right, and I just want to watch.
Oh my God.
No, but I kind of get that point. You know, we just idolize certain people. I do that with actors. I'm always super excited when I see, you know, big actors and get to meet them and stuff like that. So I kind of understand that. But it was a really cool feeling. It's very superficial. It's very much what I try to tell people not to get attached to because it always goes away.
Yes.
But I felt like the best I've probably ever felt that moment.
How are you feeling on Titan CBD right now?
I feel pretty nice and pretty calm, which is good. I recommend it. I like it. It was fun.
Do you feel a difference?
Yeah, I actually feel really calm.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't like to, you know, to say, oh yeah, I feel a million different, you know, I don't want to lie about it. But I feel
only
quite,
if you really feel it. Yeah.
Quite really quite nice and relaxed.
I have to take a reduced dose because I can't, like, I'll get too calm and then I'll just sit back in the chair and I'll be like, so just talk to me, Kit. Just tell me your feelings.
What do you feel? Yeah.
Okay, so guys, go to titancbd.com, TITANCBD.com. The website is officially launched and it's good stuff. I mean, I've done like a whole bunch of kind of mini case studies with the guests on the show before it was officially launched. And I think I've had one person, I have it, Big John. I gave him kind of a little bit smaller dose than I gave you, and he didn't feel a difference. But other than that, every single person, probably like 20 people at this point, have been like, yes, give me some. I love it. We're going to come out with a promo code soon, so you'll be able to get a discount with my name. But for now, just check out titancbd.com. It's really reasonably priced. It's a lot of fun. And shout out to my peeps. Okay, so as we exit the show, what insights do you have for the listeners? What are you really passionate about that you think people could learn from you?
I think just living your life with purpose that, you know, is the way you want to live life. I think that's like the main message I can ever give people, and to tell you how much more enjoyable life is when you're doing things that you love doing. And if you can create a lifestyle around doing that, which is definitely possible, especially in this day and age, do that. I think Alan Watts says it really perfectly when he's like, you know, what would you do if money were not an option, you know, not an object?
Yeah.
You know, how would you spend most of your days if you didn't need to worry about money? Figure out what it is you would do, how you would spend your days, and then just go and do that. Learn whatever you love doing. If you love dance, practice it, live it, love it. And eventually you're going to become so good at it that you can teach it and you can charge a very good fee to do what it is that you love doing. Don't do things just for the money, because you'll spend your whole life wasting your time just trying to make enough money to continue to doing the things that you usually hate doing anyway. So I would say live with purpose.
And so to kind of add to that, I think, we hear this advice a lot, guys, but I think what Kit is saying is position yourself in a way where you can actually invest your heart and soul into what you love doing. So, the recommendation, I think, is to save up, right? Maybe you say to yourself, okay, I'm really passionate about dancing, like you said. So for the next year, I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to save every dollar so that I can do 5 internships over the year after that, and I can afford to survive. Mm-hmm. And then, once you're in that scene, like I've experienced it too, even just being in this scene, doing the show, I've had all these other opportunities surface. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I think the passion kind of shows.
Yeah. And live smaller. A lot of people get, once again, attachments. They get attached to a certain level of living, and they don't want to backstep to go further forward. Mm-hmm. You might have your job that pays for your 2 cars and your bigger house. Sell the house, sell one of the cars, sell both the cars, get smaller cars, get a scooter, get a tiny little house, live with your parents' basement. My brother did that. Like, he got rid of his house. He lived in they built out the shed of his mother-in-law's house and lived in a small thing. Now he's got a huge house. Now he's got 2 big companies, cars.
He made sacrifices for his future.
And he rebuilt himself, and now he can do whatever, it is he wants. I lived on the couch for a long time at, people's places and try to stay and try to, leverage off who I could just to be in the position. But I was willing to do that because I knew, or I hoped, that eventually it's going to pay off.
Sure.
So now people see me and they're like, oh man, you don't work, you make money, it's like, yeah, but there was a lot I had to do, and there was a lot I had to sacrifice, and especially my image to do that. Imagine meeting girls and like, so you got your own place? Like, yeah, I got my own place. And then they come over and they realize it's my mum's place. And
oh my God. Well, you should never lie about that.
Used to happen all the time. I didn't lie about it. I would they go, have you got a place? I'm like, yeah. But I didn't need to tell them that it was my mum's place.
Right.
And they get back thinking it's mum. Oh, no. This is mum's house.
Oh, my God.
I'm just taking
buzzkill.
Yeah, I know. It's good. They loved it.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Kit, share with us your Instagram and how people can get a hold of you.
You can find me on Instagram at kitdaleofficial. Uh-huh. On Facebook, I have a page and a profile, Kit Dale. Online, it's kitdaletraining.com. And I think that's all I've got, really. YouTube, Kit Dale.
Okay, yeah.
But there's fake Kit Dales out there, so be careful. Get the one with the blue tick on Instagram.
There you go. The verified Kit Dale official. Oh, he's got, wow. He is so liked that he's got people copying him.
I've been getting this message of this Kit Dale. I think it's Kit Dile. And he's been asking everyone for nudes.
Oh, my goodness. Check out my promo photos, guys. That's actually really funny.
I'm like, don't send it to him. Send it to me. No.
Yeah. Send it to the real one. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. You can find the Jenna Ben Show 5 times a week on Dash Radio. First air is Tuesdays at 8 p.m., all Pacific Standard Times. Thursdays at 9 a.m., Fridays at 9 p.m., Saturdays at 5 p.m., and Sundays at 7 p.m. Again, all Pacific Standard Times. Thank you so much for the love. I love the DMs on Instagram. Follow me and subscribe on YouTube, and I will see you next week.